everybody. Today I would like to show you how to see simple bishop forks and use them to your advantage. Since this is chapter 1, I will start with the basic ideas and then slowly move on to more complex situations. A fork is a simultaneous attack on two pieces. I will show you what I mean with some examples. You can go ahead and pause the video if you like to find the best move yourself. Take a look at the position here. It's white to move. If you examine what checks white can give, you'll notice that black's king and rook are placed on the same diagonal. So if white plays bishop g6 check, he wins the rook. This is another example. Don't let a poorly placed pawn prevent you from seeing a fork. Bishop captures c6, wins black's rook. Now since you've got the idea, we'll move on to some real game positions. Have a look at this position. It's black to move. Well, you'll notice a couple of things right off the bat. Bishop d4 checks the king and attacks the rook. However, the knight on b3 guards the forking square. If that could be eliminated, the fork would work. Hence black plays rook captures knight. After pawn captures rook, bishop d4 check wins the rook. After this sequence, black is simply up a knight. Note that if the black king was on h8 instead of g7, none of this would work. That's the reason grandmasters like to tuck the king to safety before it is checked, as a preparatory move by simply playing a move like king h8. This is another example of how the forking square which seems to be protected is not really protected. It appears that bishop d5 check just loses the bishop straight away, but if you look carefully, the black rook is overworked. It needs to protect the forking square as well as the knight. Hence black's knight is loose, so white can easily play rook captures knight. And now black has two options. Either to maintain presence on the d file, it can move back to d8, or it can play rook captures rook and let his rook be forked by the white bishop. Either way, white wins the knight free of cost. Use the same train of thought here. White simply plays rook captures bishop, and after black responds with rook captures rook, the bishop comes in with a nice little fork on c5, winning back the rook. Again, white has won a bishop for free. Look at the board and see if you can find the best move for black. I think you'll find it quite simple now. Well, this is how the sequence plays out. Rook captures bishop, rook captures rook, bishop captures f4 check, king to b2, and finally bishop captures rook. Okay, you may be wondering why I didn't play the moves while telling you the move order. That's because I want you to visualize the moves in your head before you make a decision to move your pieces. That's very important. Here's another puzzle. It's white to move. Can you see the move? The move is rook captures bishop. After king captures rook, white plays bishop c5, forking the king and the rook, and now white is up material. Now, some of you might have the question, what if my opponent doesn't play what I expect him to play? Whenever you sack, always remember to look at other possible moves your opponent can make. Here it is black to move. Black plays rook captures b4, comfortable with the fact that white will accept his sacrifice and play rook captures rook. And then, as usual, the bishop comes in with the fork and plays bishop captures knight, forking the king and the rook. Therefore, black wins 3 points of material. Now, what if white doesn't take black's rook and instead plays rook a5? Black can go on with bishop captures knight, but now white can just take on c5. After this, rook f4 wins another pawn. Hence, black is up 2 points of material. So always look at possibilities and keep in mind that your opponent may also see what you can see. Check out this position. It is white to move. Pause the video and see if you can find the move. This time you'll have to think one step ahead. At first sight, you won't see any forks available for white. You need to build a fork by checking the king into position. Note that the white rook on the d file is very strong and the black king is almost trapped. If white plays f5 check, the king has only two escape squares, e5 and f6. Either way, bishop d4 check wins the rook. Now white is just winning. Again, examine what checks white can give. Rook f5 check is pointless. Look at bishop c1 check. The only square that black has is now g6. Now white plays bishop f5 check and wins the rook. Note here that it's important for black to take the pawn on f6, otherwise it may promote to a queen. Pause the video and think of what would be the best move sequence for white. Imagine what the board would look like if the black bishop was replaced by the black king. Then white would play bishop captures b6, forking the rook and the king. Thus white plays rook d1 check. Now the king has two options. It can either go to c7 or e7 if it wants to protect the lonely bishop on d8. Suppose king e7. Now after white takes the bishop on d8, black recaptures with his king, and now bishop captures b6 secures the win for white.